and welcome to Deep River Discoveries as we go into our special spooky Halloween edition, where we talk to Sean Rogers, director of Mendenhall Homeplace, and go on a special Back Doors ghost tour. Join us. Is this part of the older area?
Yeah, we're on the fringe of the older area. Yeah, a lot of the early burials are here, and
this is the early.
right here,
People who would
right at the back step.
In the 1700s.
Yes, for the most part, most of the early burials are here. So the meeting house stood right there. Right. Okay, with the front facing south. And so at the north.
Was it going this way?
No, this way, east and west. Mm-hmm. And of course, it had the two entrances for the women and men, and it had the shutter partition in the middle, and it was in the old English configuration with the benches going like this.
All right, so here, tell us about
Minerva.
Okay, so Minerva.
Okay, so these are her parents.
So these are her parents over here.
Yeah, so Richard and Mary Peg Mendenhall are her parents, and of course they were the original owners of Mendenhall Homeplace.
Okay.
Dates back to at least 1811. The original part of the house dates back to 1800.
And they were primarily farmers?
Well, all these people were yeoman farmers, but almost all of them had side hustles, trades. He was a potter and a tanner. He made leather, made shoes, saddles, and harnesses, things like that. And had
So Minerva, it says here that
she's the eldest child.
The oldest child. It says second month.
That's right.
So what does that mean in Quaker lingo? I know it means different at different times.
February 16th, 1813.
So that means February.
Yeah.
Now, if it was before 17 something, didn't it change?
Once again, not that I know of. Now there are two ways of doing this. Now, in the early days, they would often do, like, for example, no Quaker would say July 4th, 1776. That's Julius Caesar. We're not playing that game. Yeah. So here's the deal.
Like those pagan
normally you would say 4th day, 7th month, the year of our Lord, 1776. But then later, they would say 2nd month, 16th day, 1813. Of course, you don't see the day on there. I think they ran out of space. And not only that, it's understood. But Minerva was the eldest child of Richard and Mary. She was born in the house in 1813, died there in 1900. So she lived there longer than anyone.
Did she live her entire life?
Short of 2 years. She spent time in both Nashville, Tennessee, and Raleigh, North Carolina. She was matron for the first state mental hospital in both North Carolina and Tennessee, and also had small stints teaching elsewhere. But for the most part,
she was a teacher, or
she was an amazing lady. Most people would call her a bookkeeper, but when you look into the records and you actually see what she did, she was employed by several companies, early companies here, High Point, Greensboro, in the local area, Winston-Salem. But she wasn't just keeping books. She was telling these people how to manage their personnel, inventory. She was a real business lady. But, by 1867, both of her parents had died. And so she was the lady in the house. So she had this big empty house. And she did something really amazing. She filled it up with people who needed it. Orphans who had been expelled from orphanages, basically problem children. People had mental and physical disabilities that really had no other resort. She brought them in, she fed them, she cared for them, she loved them, and she educated them. And most of them led, successful, productive lives. Some of them went on to do amazing things. They were presidents of banks, hospitals, colleges. So,
wow.
Really amazing lady. She's one of my favorite Mendenhalls.
Okay, so we're going to talk more about her when we get to the Mendenhall home place. So we're going to go in and we are going to try to see her ghost. Okay, so that's one of the things. But now that we are here at her gravesite, how did she die? You know how she died?
Well, we might want to wait to get there because it involves the house.
That involves the house.
An element in the house, a feature of the house.
Okay, you're right. Okay, we got to save it for the house. So this
The
this
one-
kitchen is how old? Is from the
This is
1700s?
actually part of the original house that dates to 1800.
1800. So this literally was when she was born in 1800. This kitchen is from that very time
No,
period.
she was born upstairs in the 1811 part of the house.
Oh yeah, that's right. She
Mhm.
wasn't born in 1800. She died in
Yeah, so he lived here as a bachelor for 11 years. And then he was when they were married in 1812, they took up housekeeping in the new house that was built here, and they used this separate pre-existing house as a summer kitchen.
That's right.
Which is usually how they did things. You would, when you first established yourself as a young man, you would build a small house back away from the prevailing road, and you would live in it until you had the resources to build a more substantial house. And you wanted to get that big house built before you propose marriage, because you not only want to impress her, but more importantly, her father. Okay.
So would Minerva have been cooking in this very kitchen?
Oh yeah,
for sure.
This thing was cooked in until 1957. The Chadwick sisters were the last people to live in this house as a private residence, and they were still cooking out of that firebox.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever cook anything there?
No, I have the cap. They're capped. Yeah.
Okay. I hear you.
So let me tell you this story, and this is one I give the most credence of all the ones I've heard. It's not to say I don't believe the others necessarily, but this one, it's a man named Benford Farlow, well-known, upstanding Quaker, was one of the first volunteer tour guides, docents here at Mendenhall. I think he was here the very first day it was open to the public on July 4th, 1976, the bicentennial. Well, anyhow, one of the early tours he gave was this young couple. They were in their 20s. They had a 4 or 5-year-old daughter. And it started here, like most of them do, because this is said to be the original part of the house. And they made their way into the hall room, which is basically the living room of the main house. And the parents realized that the daughter wasn't with them. She must have circled back, or got sidetracked somewhere. So the mother sent father to go retrieve her while Benford and the mother waited in the hall room. And they didn't come back right away. So okay, let's see what's going on. So they walked into this room, and what they saw was the young girl standing here, talking away over here towards the corner. Father was where you are. And the mother's like, who are you talking with? And she's like, the lady in the dress with the thing on her head. She's over here in the chair. See her? And she was just having a conversation. Her dad's like, well, what is she saying? Well, she just said it's time for us to leave now. And so they left.
Like where in the house have you had an experience? Let's check it out. Let's go.
So
this is what Deep Discovery is all about. Is checking out the unknown.
This is the one that creeped me out the most because I saw something. So a couple of years ago, I tracked this down, the vanity and the bed, and it belonged to Richard Junius Mendenhall, the youngest son born and reared here. Mm-hmm. He's the one who's co-founder of Minneapolis and co-founder of Honeywell.
Right. Oh, okay.
Well, anyway, this is actually from Minneapolis. This is from his estate. And we acquired it. We broke it all down. We brought it here. I'm like, how are we going to get it up these stairs? It's not going to happen. So I ended up pulling my van up, put a mattress on top of it. Long story short, we carried the bed in through the porch in pieces. And I'm up here putting this thing together, and she's helping me hold the rail so I can get the bolt started and all that stuff. And she's like, Sean, it's 7:30. I got to go home. I got to leave. I said, no problem. I'm just going to do what I can here, and then I'm going to head home myself. So she left. About 10 or 15 minutes later, I'm working away here. And I saw her standing, at least I thought I saw her out of the corner of my eye, standing right here. And I'm like, what'd you do? Do you feel sorry for me? Come back and help? And I said, can you hold this rail? I need to get this bolt started. And once I get this bolt started, I can get the other ones in. No problem. She didn't say anything. I'm like, haha, very funny. Could you please? I really do need help. Can you hold it? And no answer. So then I'm here. So the bed was actually over here when I'm putting it together. I'm on my hands and knees. I felt her walk behind me. You could literally feel the boards go down as she walked over. And she stood there, and I said, fine then. I said, I'm about ready to quit anyway. And so I went, like another minute, I'm wrenching. And then I look over, because I saw her out of the corner of my eye, and I looked over, gone. And I went downstairs. She's gone. Car, gone. Her little Volkswagen's gone. So I call her, and I'm like, where did you go? And how did you get out of here so quickly? And she goes, what do you mean? She goes, I've been gone for 25 minutes. So, yeah, and it was a woman. I didn't know it was a woman. That's what I saw. Anyhow, the corner of my, I didn't
in a dress, obviously, and just.
Well, I don't know about that. I could just tell. I just assumed it was her because she was just here, right? So, I can sit in my chair at my office and I can tell you exactly where anyone is in this house. The
the boards make a lot of sense.
The doors squeak, the whole 9 yards. So anyhow, one day I'm working on it's like 7:30 at night, actually. It's summer, so it's bright as day out. And I'm working on this grant application, which of course I had to do the next day because I procrastinated. And I'm tapping away on my laptop, and I heard someone walk from the small room to the large room. And I didn't really think anything of it because people are in the habit of just walking in because they're curious. They want to, hey, trying to look for someone like me to get a tour, find out about the house. Well, the only thing is all the doors were locked. And there's no way anybody could have got in unless they came in earlier. And I was already paranoid because I heard this like radio news stories like a couple days ago about these guys that went into a boutique in Greensboro and they hid out in a changing room and they waited for the place to close and then they robbed the place. So I'm like, I hadn't been here very long. It's like, that's all I need is for somebody to hide out and pilfer the place. So I went everywhere. I looked under the beds. I went in the attic. Looked, there's nobody here. So I'm like, well, I don't have time for this. So I go back down and I start typing away. Maybe like a half an hour, maybe a little less than a half hour later, I hear somebody move from the large room back into this room. And it was a person, a biped. You could
hear that.
And the weight required to make these, well, I mean, you can hear.
Yeah, you can hear.
To make that noise. It's not like a squirrel or a raccoon. So
like a little rustle.
Anyhow, long story short, I got my laptop and everything and I was out of here. I locked up. I was done for the night. These are the stairs that Minerva fell down. So these are the stairs, and we can take a look at them from downstairs. It's going to be a better view, but you can see how tight the corner is.
That is a tight little corner. And so you use this when you're doing the tours, you use the candles there.
Yeah, so people don't walk up here. Yeah. So we don't know whether she was walking up or walking down. My guess is she was stepping down, probably missed a step. She broke her leg.
So this is how she died.
Yeah.
So Minerva, okay, so she was nearly 87.
Yeah, she was nearly 87, and what happened was she missed a step, fell down the stairs.
Going down these stairs.
Yes, and she broke her leg, so she was laid up, but she was bedridden for 3 weeks before she died. Probably had internal injuries or.
Yeah.
Of course, what are you going to do back then?
In 1900?
Yeah, so she was 3 days short of turning 87.
3 days short, and then she died. Where did she die? Did she die in this room, or which room?
Probably downstairs would be my guess, like downstairs. In the parlor, the small parlor room. Probably on the bed there, yeah.
And
her bedroom growing up was here. This is the room that she slept in. So she was used to walking up and down those stairs.
Yeah, she didn't
bother walking all the way over here and taking those stairs. She was in the habit of taking those, so that's what she did.
Here is my question: why do you think she's still here? I mean, is there any reason you think? Is it? I mean.
I don't. This is like my personal take on it, and this is how I interpret it. Maybe it's just to make myself feel more comfortable and at ease with it. I just think she's just hanging around to make sure that we're doing things correctly.
You're taking care of the place.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sean.
Oh, you're welcome.
You totally rocked. Thank you for inviting us and joining us on this journey. And hopefully we've maybe given you some spooky things to think about and stuff you've learned today. So thanks for joining us on Deep River Discovery.
Well, anyhow, he's like putting stuff away in the attic and he finds this casket lid. And he's like, how great is this? It's October. We're going to have some fun with this. So he takes it down to the front porch. And he rigs this thing up with a series of cables and pulleys and a foot pedal. And so when the kids came up to trick or treat, he'd mash down on the foot pedal and check it out. The coffin lid would open up, and behind it he had a skeleton tethered to a chain. And it was leaning up against the lid. So when it opened, it just went forward, and the kids would scurry up the hill, away from the house.